Hi. Now you are familiar with classification of animals. Now let's look at the classification of plants. I think you have an idea about this lesson and the next one from your previous lessons in grade 7. The classification of plants, you know that we have two types of plants, flowering plants and non-flowering plants. From their names we can identify or understand the difference between them. The flowering plants are the plants which produce flowers. That's why they are called flowering plants. Some plants don't produce flowers, so they are called non-flowering plants. So, plants are classified into flowering plants and non-flowering plants. Non-flowering plants are three groups, but before explaining them, we have to give a short idea about the flowering plants. Flowering plants, most of the plants are producing flowers, so they are called flowering plants, which are different in their shape, size, and even some of them producing smell, and some of them don't produce any smell. They can be classified because they have a huge number. They can be classified into groups and subgroups. Grasses and trees actually are flowering plants, but their flowers are unnoticed, small and dull. The flowering plants reproduce by seeds. They give new plants of the same kind by cultivating their seeds. This point is very important to compare between flowering plants and non-flowering plants. So don't ever forget that the flowering plants reproduce, means that they produce new plants of the same kind by seeds. What about non-flowering plants, or the plants which don't produce flowers? They are classified into three groups. Non-flowering plants are classified into three groups. Number one, mosses. Number two, ferns. Number three, conifers. Mosses, ferns, and conifers are non-flowering plants. But what are the differences between them? We have many differences between them, but we have to focus on some few points to compare between them. Before introducing the comparison between them, they are sharing in one point, in one property, that they are non-flowering plants. Yes. What about the difference between them? Number one, do they have roots or not? Mosses, they don't have roots. They are existing like threads, عامل زي الخيوط كده. But ferns and conifers, they have roots. Why? To take its function, to take in water and minerals. Both of conifers and ferns, they have roots to take in water and minerals or nutrients and transferring them to the stem. This is number one. Number two, from the difference between the three non-flowering plants, mosses, ferns, and conifers, they grow taller or shorter. Mosses, they are growing shorter. That's why they are existing in the form of threads. But ferns and conifers, they are growing taller. Number three, the area of their growth, the area or its habitat, to be more accurate. Mosses and ferns, both of them prefer the damp or wet environment, the damp or wet habitat, especially shady and places. Shady places اللي يكون فيها shadow, not direct sunlight. But conifers, they are preferring to grow up in dry places. Here we have very important point to compare between mosses, conifers, and ferns. At the beginning of the lesson, I have mentioned that flowering plants reproduce by seeds. They produce new plants of the same kind by seeds. What about the non-flowering plants, mosses, ferns, and conifers? Mosses and ferns, both of them reproduce by spores. These spores are existing at the ends of the stalk, and sometimes these spores are found on the lower surface of the leaves, like those. The spores here on the lower surface of the ferns are very clear, but the spores here are not clear because the mosses are existing in the form of threads. عم زغلول كده. طيب السبورز موجودة فين؟ at the top of its stalk، على نهاية الستوك أو على الطرف بتاع الفرد. What about conifers? Conifers reproduce by seeds. Wow. But conifers are not flowering plants. How can they reproduce? They reproduce by seeds, not inside the flowers, but the seeds of the conifers are existing inside special structures called cones. These are the shapes of the cones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, this is a cone. Cone. The seeds are existing inside them, not inside the flowers. So, if you have a question, which is a type of plant which is reproducing by seeds, بتتسرعش وتكتب flowering plants، بتتسرعش وتكتب conifer. اعرف السيدز دي موجودة فين. If the question is a type of plants reproducing by seeds inside the flowers, flowering plants. But a type of plant that reproduces by seeds inside cones, conifers. طيب في حاجة برضه خدناها أول السنة اللي فاتت طالما بنتكلم عن flowering plants. The flowering plants are type of plants that producing seeds, that reproduce by seeds, and they produce flowers. That's why they are called flowering plants. This is the simple model of a flowering plant. It consists of two main parts. One part grows downward under the soil, which is called root system, and the other part, which is growing up above the soil, which is called shoot system. The shoot system including stem. The stem carries on its body the leaves, the fruit, the flowers, the buds, and terminal bud. All this part is called shoot system, and this part is called root system. The root system is made up of branches, main root, lateral roots, but in general the function of the root system, because it is existing under the soil, is to take in water and minerals, to absorb water and minerals and fix the plant in the soil. Plants are fixed in the soil by the action of the stem or by the action of the root. Number 2, the stem carries on its body leaves, fruit, flowers, buds, and terminal bud. The function of the stem is to transfer water and minerals to all the parts of the shoot system. The leaves, the place of photosynthesis process. That's why some scientists describing the leaves as food factory of the plant. Why the leaves are food factory of the plant? Because they absorb sunlight, because they contain green cells, chloroplast and chlorophyll, to capture sunlight for photosynthesis process. The food factory of the plants are the leaves. طبعا the fruit containing seeds for the reproduction or to produce plant of the same kind. وده برضه احنا خدناه السنة اللي فاتت grade 7. مفيش أي كلمة مختلفة خالص عن السنة اللي فاتت.